The movie begins with a young girl named Jana who just arrived home from school. She immediately searches for and approaches her father, a Russian man. It's Jana's birthday, and since she has come of age, her father gives her late mother's wedding ring as a necklace, a special gift for her birthday. Jana is overjoyed with her father's gift, and he reminds her to wear her dress for the event later that evening. The moment she leaves her father alone in the bathroom, an assassin suddenly appears behind the man, kills him, and takes one of his fingers. Jana witnesses this and runs outside, despite being shot in the shoulder. She flees from the house to seek help from her uncle, but unfortunately, she eventually dies from her wounds. 7 years later, Caldwell hires an assassin named Morgan to kill a man named Lisek, who runs the largest human trafficking operation in Europe. Morgan prepares his sniper rifle and attempts to kill Lisek, but he is shot in the hip, causing Lisek's men to be alerted. Lisek's men storm the building where Morgan is hiding, intending to kill him. However, Morgan throws several smoke grenades and manages to kill some of them. He falls from the building but lands safely on a car. Using the car to escape, Morgan is pursued and has his tires shot out, causing him to crash. Lisek's men approach the vehicle but discover that Morgan is no longer inside. At the same time, Lisek is killed by an unknown shooter, who fires a bullet into his head while Morgan hides. Later, Morgan treats his wounds in a hotel and calls Caldwell to inform him of what happens. Caldwell asks about Lisek, and Morgan explains that Lisek is killed by the man who shot him in the hip. Despite the incident, Caldwell is relieved that Morgan is safe and informs him of a new job waiting for him. Caldwell mentions that it's a significant contract and promises to explain everything once Morgan returns. Morgan receives a call from his girlfriend, Sophie, who is worried and hasn't been sleeping well since Morgan went to Paris. Morgan reassures her that he will be home soon and ends the call. The scene shifts to Agent Voss and her team investigating Lisek's death. Voss believes it is the work of a skilled contract killer with military experience and orders her team to coordinate with local officials as their best option for now. Meanwhile, Morgan, now back in Italy, reviews his surveillance cameras installed around the city to observe the streets. He spots a woman buying food for a homeless man and feels reassured that good people still exist. Afterward, he picks up Sophie from her school after her teaching shift. Reunited after several days apart, he hugs her tightly and gives her a crystal as a gift. Later that evening, Sophie notices the wound on Morgan's back and becomes concerned. Morgan lies, saying it is from a motorcycle accident, but Sophie grows suspicious as he frequently comes home with injuries and serious wounds. Morgan tells her not to worry and promises that they'll soon be together every day. The following day, Morgan meets Caldwell at a restaurant to discuss the next job. Morgan immediately declares that he is done and ready to retire from this line of work. Caldwell, however, explains that this job involves 6 contracts, each worth $1 million. He further emphasizes that the targets, like previous ones, are evil individuals who do not deserve to live. Despite Caldwell's arguments, Morgan insists he wants to quit and start a new life, but Caldwell doubts his resolve. Caldwell explains that people like them have only 3 reasons to retire: finding God, a woman, or death. He suspects that for Morgan, it's because of a woman. In the end, Morgan agrees to take the job out of his long-standing loyalty to Caldwell, who has been his mentor. That evening, Morgan takes Sophie shopping, making the most of their time together. Sophie suggests that Morgan meet her parents as they're tired of just hearing stories about him from her. While walking through a tunnel, they are suddenly attacked by a man who attempts to kill Morgan. Fortunately, Morgan detects the threat and engages in a fierce fight with the attacker. Morgan kills the man by stabbing him in the chest, shocking Sophie. He photographs the man's body and tattoos before leaving with Sophie. Traumatized by the encounter, Sophie demands answers from Morgan about what just happened. Morgan calms her down, explaining that she isn't safe with him right now and needs time to figure out who's targeting him. Furious, he calls Caldwell to demand answers about the recent events. He confronts Caldwell with the attacker's photo and tattoos, asking for information. Caldwell identifies the man as Alex Drasko, a mercenary who is also the one who shot Morgan in the hip. Later, Caldwell reveals that Drasko is one of the 6 contracts and transfers $1 million to Morgan's account as a reward. He also discloses that the remaining 5 targets are all highly skilled assassins and are hired to eliminate one another. Each assassin must send a finger from their victim to a P.O. box in Paris as confirmation. Caldwell, acting only as a middleman, explains that the person behind the job considers this operation a game. He tells Morgan that if he wants to survive, he needs to play the game. Caldwell hands Morgan a flash drive containing the identities of the other assassins. Morgan realizes the 5 remaining targets are as skilled as he is. Ryder, a brutal psychopath who collects a finger from each of his victims. Pablo Martinez, an expert in poison. Yuko, deadly in knife combat and close-quarters fighting. Demir, a ruthless and merciless killer. And the last one, whose identity remains a mystery. Morgan gathers his weapons and prepares to complete the mission as quickly as possible. He plants a GPS tracking device in his home and sets up cameras in every room. In a prison, the mysterious assassin is revealed to be a woman named Falk. She kills Demir and slices off his finger. Inspector Leon later receives a package containing Demir's finger, which he brings to Dr. Pierre for analysis. Eventually, it is revealed that Yana survives and is still alive. Leon informs her about the death of the assassin Drasko, but Yana already knows and asks about the other assassins. Leon has no updates, which frustrates Yana. While Leon is in his car, Morgan suddenly ambushes him and knocks him out. When Leon regains consciousness, Morgan questions him about the package he receives earlier and the company he works for. Leon reveals that the package contains a finger and admits they publish fake obituaries to confirm receipts. After obtaining the information, Morgan decides to dig deeper into Leon's background and gathers everything he needs. At that moment, Morgan receives a call from Falk, who proposes they work together to kill the person who hires them to fight each other. Gradually, Morgan realizes that the person behind all this wants to eliminate every assassin. Falk suggests that the orchestrator might want the assassins to face the consequences of their actions. She gives Morgan her contact information in case he wants to collaborate and tells him where to find Pablo Martinez. Morgan suddenly recalls Caldwell's knowledge of Drasko and begins researching his background, eventually finding a photo of Drasko and Caldwell together. He confronts Caldwell about his relationship with Drasko. Morgan knows that Drasko is also a former Marine like him, and both grow up in an orphanage without friends or family. Caldwell admits that both Drasko and Morgan are adopted by him after their military service ends. He also confesses that he is cornered into this game and has to choose between Drasko and Morgan. Caldwell clarifies that he chooses to give Drasko Morgan's location to have him killed, but he knows Morgan is highly skilled and will defeat Drasko. Nevertheless, Morgan is furious about the betrayal as he has already considered Caldwell as a father figure. He also discovers that Caldwell knows Falk's identity, so he warns him that she will come for them both and kill them. On his way to kill Martinez, Morgan receives another call from Falk, and it's revealed that Agent Voss and Falk are the same person with different identities. Falk has already discovered the source of the $6 million contract, which is orchestrated by Mariusz, Yana's uncle. Mariusz hires assassins to eliminate anyone who gets in his way, including Yana's father, allowing his company to thrive and win every major building project over the past decade. Falk believes that Yana has discovered her uncle's deeds and wants revenge for her father. However, Falk is confident that Yana doesn't know which assassin kills her father. When Morgan arrives at Martinez's location, he prepares to kill him. However, upon seeing the man's child, he decides to dig deeper into Martinez's life instead. He finds out that Martinez has not been hired to kill assassins, and the last person he kills is 8 years ago. Morgan asks him about his most recent job, which occurs during the pandemic. On that day, Martinez poisons a man, but the dose is too low, leaving the victim hospitalized for 18 days. Martinez is now living with his only child and confesses to Morgan that he regrets his actions, which leads him to retire from the business. Morgan tells him they are being pitted against each other and need as much information as possible to find out who is behind it. That night, Yuko breaks into Martinez's house and confronts Morgan. Yuko manages to overpower Morgan during their fight, but as she attempts to kill him, Martinez suddenly appears and shoots the assassin. While thanking Martinez, Morgan abruptly cuts off one of his fingers, saying it is for his own good. He also cuts off one of Yuko's fingers to send it to a P.O. box in Paris. Meanwhile, Ryder breaks into Morgan's apartment looking for him, but steps on a tracking device that alerts Morgan to his presence. At the same time, Falk injects poison into Caldwell while he is sleeping in his home. The poison is lethal, leaving Caldwell with only an hour to live. However, Falk holds the antidote and promises to give it to him if Caldwell hands over the file on Falk and Morgan. Caldwell complies with the demand but secretly sends Falk's file to Morgan before giving it to Falk. Falk deletes his file, but Morgan has already seen it and now knows his identity and location. When Caldwell hands over Morgan's file to Falk, she examines a picture of Morgan with Sophie and later discovers her location. Caldwell pleads not to involve Sophie, but Falk only laughs at his words. It is then revealed that Falk has also been adopted by Caldwell, just like Drasko and Morgan. As the poison seems to have killed Caldwell, Falk approaches him, but the old man suddenly attacks her, smashing a bottle on her head. Falk is barely hurt by the attack and mercilessly slits Caldwell's throat in the end. The following morning, Morgan calls Caldwell and is shocked to hear someone else's voice. Morgan receives a call from Falk, who reveals her full identity. Morgan tells her he will kill her after he deals with Ryder. Unfortunately, Falk has already discovered Sophie's location and gives it to Ryder to kill her. Morgan immediately calls Sophie, who is at school, begging her to escape as quickly as possible, but Ryder has already arrived. Morgan alerts the police about a criminal at the school. Fortunately, Sophie survives as Ryder retreats when the police arrive. When Morgan visits Sophie, she demands to know what is happening. Morgan decides to reveal the truth about himself. He takes her to his hidden room to show her his weapons for his work. He explains that after leaving the Marines, he meets a man named Caldwell, who becomes his mentor and introduces him to the world of assassins. Caldwell acts as the middleman between clients wanting to eliminate bad people. Morgan confesses that everything changes when Sophie comes into his life, and he wants to quit being an assassin to be with her. When he hears that Sophie is pregnant, he decides to send her to her parents for safety. Morgan visits Caldwell's body one last time and vows to avenge him no matter what. At the same time, Yana is seen crying as she visits her father's grave. The next day, Morgan goes to Ryder's hideout to try and kill him. He discovers numerous torture tools while waiting for Ryder to return home. Meanwhile, Falk, as Agent Voss, works for Yana, who is unaware of her real identity. Through satellite footage, they find Morgan and Ryder's locations. Agent Voss prepares her team and sends them to kill the two assassins. Shortly after, Ryder arrives and Morgan immediately shoots him. However, Morgan is now surrounded by authorities, so he releases gas into the area and ignites it to block their path. He then plants a bomb and jumps from the building just in time. He escapes in an ambulance truck with everyone chasing him and reaches a bridge. Unfortunately, the police corner him from both directions. Morgan chooses to drive into the river and shoots the gas tank, causing an explosion to make them believe he is dead. Despite this, Agent Voss orders them to find Morgan's body to confirm his death. Eventually, Morgan manages to escape and captures Leon again. Morgan tells Leon he knows his intentions are pure, forcing him to help expose the truth about Agent Voss and Falk being the same person. With no other options, Leon agrees to help him. Leon summons Agent Voss to the morgue, claiming to have found Morgan's body. Suddenly, Morgan appears behind Voss and holds her at gunpoint. However, Falk is skilled in close combat and overpowers Morgan. After a long fight, Morgan manages to stab Falk's hand into the wall. As Morgan prepares to finish her, a police officer arrives, forcing him to flee. While treating his injuries, Morgan learns from the news about Marius and discovers Yana's location. Morgan immediately goes to Yana and holds her at gunpoint. He reveals to her that her uncle is responsible for her father's death, but Yana says her father has been killed by an assassin hired by her uncle. This is why she wants all the assassins eliminated. She also reveals that the $6 million she has spent working with the agents is to stop her uncle and apprehend the assassins. Morgan discovers that Yana has worked with Agent Voss, unaware of her true identity as Falk. The idea to pit the assassins against each other comes from Falk to fulfill her plan. When Morgan reveals that Agent Voss is the assassin who kills Yana's father, she can't accept it. However, the $6 million has not yet been delivered to any assassin, and Falk has all the money. Yana says she has received news that Falk has died of a heart attack. Morgan checks on Falk's status using a computer to see if she is truly dead. When he confirms it, he calls Sophie and asks to meet her. A few days later, Morgan meets Sophie at a hotel, but explains that they can't stay together for long as her safety might still be at risk. The next day, Morgan returns home to retrieve his weapons and prepare for the next move. Unexpectedly, Falk calls him again, revealing she is still alive. When Morgan learns that Falk has Sophie, he rushes to the hotel and seeks Leon's help. Unfortunately, Morgan activates a bomb's cable that will detonate if he removes his leg, killing both him and Sophie. He needs to wait 5 minutes for the bomb to expire, but if he does, Sophie will drown in the bathtub within that time. Leon arrives but is immediately shot twice in the chest by Falk. As Falk leaves, confident that Leon can't do anything and that either Morgan or Sophie will die, Leon uses all his remaining energy to crawl and save Sophie from drowning. When the bomb finally deactivates, Morgan moves and quickly tries to save Sophie. Eventually, Sophie regains consciousness, but Morgan tells her he needs to leave to finish everything. Morgan steps outside and sees Falk walking away. He calls her name and immediately fires a single shot, hitting her directly in the chest. A few days later, Morgan and Sophie are shown happily driving on a road in Portugal. In the final scene, Falk is revealed to be alive and lying in a hospital bed. Thank you so much for staying till the end. If you enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for future uploads.